Hello students, welcome to IIEBM's Marketing Foundation course, lecture number 9. So today's topic is Porter's 5 Forces model. So this is a very important marketing tool which is a very basic concept that every student of marketing requires, okay, or every student of management requires, whether the person specializes in marketing or finance or HR, etc. Because it helps us to understand the macroeconomic environment and how the particular firm is located within that macroeconomic environment, right? So essentially, what we are going to do today is we are going to look at Porter's 5 forces model. Just recall a little bit about what we had discussed in the previous classes. In the previous 2-3 classes, we have discussed pestle analysis, that is political, economic, legal, technological, okay, sociological environment. So macroeconomic environment we have looked at. We have looked at certain important tools like segmentation, targeting, positioning, these concepts. We have looked at product portfolio analysis, namely BCG matrix. So essentially today what we are going to look at is what is known as how to create competitive advantage, okay, which is essentially part of competitor analysis and competitive marketing strategies. Now the word competition was not always present in the corporate lingo. The word competition is essentially a byproduct of buyer's market. So if you look at USA in 1920s or before the Second World War, 1930s, 1940s, the explosion in the market was not such that sellers had to really jostle with themselves and try to really engage the buyer's attention by giving them schemes or you know some kind of incentives to buy. So in a market scenario or an economic environment scenario where the seller's market prevails, the term competition actually doesn't have too much of significance. So in a monopoly situation, ideally, of course, every corporate would like to be in a monopoly situation where he can dominate the market, okay, and he can price his goods the way he likes, and he has an assured customer base. However, in the context of a buyer's market, let's say post Second World War America or post 1991 India, you have a number of uh, players who are engaging for the similar needs and wants of the consumer, in which case the consumer has a choice. So essentially, whenever in the market a consumer has choice, the marketer will have to engage in efforts to attract the attention of the consumer. So in the previous classes, we have discussed something called as marketing concept. Marketing concept always assumes that there is a prevailing condition is a buyer's market, and the marketers will have to engage in efforts which starts with needs and wants of the consumer, understanding the needs and wants of the consumer. Based on the needs and wants, try to design an offering that satisfies the needs and wants in the most profitable manner compared to other players. So if suppose a customer is feeling thirsty, every customer will feel thirsty. So I can quench his thirst using water. I can quench his thirst using Coca-Cola, aerated drinks. I can quench his thirst using some kind of lassi. So as such, when I am working for a company like say Amul Lassi, so I will consider Coca-Cola as my competitor. I will also consider water as my competitor. Now, water is freely available. Okay, it is a commodity that is not necessarily perceived by the consumer as having a price tag on it. So, as such, if a consumer is thirsty, instead of lassi, he might consume water. Instead of lassi, he might consume Coca-Cola. So, as such, lassi ke liye Coca-Cola and water are both going to be competitors. So essentially the concept of competition comes when consumer has choice. Okay. So that's a very, very essential or a very basic concept. So as such, in an ideal situation, a corporate would like there to be no competition and a clear playing, a clear field where he can go and score goals in an empty uh, goalpost. However, the problem is that in a post-liberalization environment or a free market environment, what we call as laissez-faire environment, there are a number of players vying for the attention of the uh, consumer. So essentially, what happens is uh, in a buyer's market scenario, the every corporate would ideally want, of course, the business environment will have to be regulated by the government. So the government will have to ensure a level playing field. The government can't be seen to be being biased in favor of one and opposing another competitor. So there is something called as a uh, creating a level playing field or preventing any restrictive trade practices. So in India, there used to be something called as a in 1970s, etc. There used to be a Monopolies and Restrictive Trade Practices Control Act, in which a particular company, if it produced more than X amount of items that it was given a quota for or a license for, and it was perceived to be producing more than that, then the government would impose a penalty on it, saying that it is becoming a monopoly. So currently, such monopolies control is not there. However, you can't engage in restrictive trade practices. For example, if your competitor is producing a better quality product, you can't go and sabotage his factory, or you can't go and so if police investigation finds that you are preventing your competitor from doing lawful business activities, then that would amount to a criminal act. So obviously, in the regulatory environment that is basically prevailing in the world, obviously you would ideally not like to have any competitor, but unfortunately competition exists. So as they say, the saying goes, competition is like morality. Everybody praises it in public, but in private they would not like to have any competition. So to that extent, competition is a double-edged sword for all businesses. Now, the crux of today's discussion is essentially going to be of how to basically deal with competition and what should we do internally as far as competition is concerned. So, in order to plan effective competitive strategies, okay, so a company first of all has to find out whatever it can about its competitors. So, what does it entail? It entails constantly comparing the products of our company with that of competitors. Let's say in early 1990s, when let's say VIP luggage started facing competition from Samsonite. This was in the late 90s to early 2000s. Samsonite started setting up its plant, for producing luggage. So VIP or Safari or Aristocrat, these were homegrown Indian brands. They had to they had to understand as to what is it that is going into the component design of that particular luggage, that it is coming out to be sturdier than ours, that it is coming out to be much sleeker than ours, and so on and so forth. So finding out, constantly comparing products, constantly comparing prices. So yes, VIP luggage, if it is selling at 1500 rupees for a particular size of luggage, let's say 21 inches, and if Samsonite is offering it as 1800 rupees or 2000 rupees, and what is it that the consumer, if at all a consumer is buying, why the consumer might be buying an 1800 or 2000 rupees bag for the same size and not preferring VIP luggage? So trying to have this kind of data regarding product and price, regarding channels of distribution, regarding its promotional strategies, and so on. So, I, as an organization, need to compare all of these aspects, the four P's of mine, with that of the competitor. So, if I am trying to launch a new product, then of course the competitors' four P's I will have to understand in detail before I can design my own. After this, I need to find out certain areas of potential competitive advantage that I have vis-a-vis my competitors. Okay, so for which I can construct a perceptual map as has been shown on the slide. Okay, so let's say I am talking about certain leading car brands, automobile brands in the world. Okay, so in terms of prestige, so if I own, let's say, a BMW, or if I own a Mercedes, it connotes high prestige. So suppose on one axis I put prestige, high versus low, and another axis I put, suppose, how much value for money it is. Okay, high versus low. So I map or I plot all the existing competitors, and suppose I am trying to come up with a new automobile brand or a new model. Where do I pitch it? Where is there a gap? Suppose there is a gap in this particular area, and suppose the consumer is desiring a car brand which is in this particular area. So should I really design an offering which basically can occupy this position in the minds of the consumer? So there are various competitor analysis tools. So what we are going to discuss today, that is Porter's five forces model, is essentially one of the competitor analysis tools. Okay, how to understand competitors and how to derive a competitive advantage based on the same. So having understood our competitive advantage or disadvantages, what do? I then select the right competitive advantage to basically uh, a set of possible competitive advantages I can basically first of all shortlist, and then within those competitive advantages that I have shortlisted, I select the right competitive advantage that is best for me, okay, or that I truly possess, or what the consumers perceive that I possess. And then I have to effectively communicate the deliver the chosen position to the market, which is what we have studied in promotional mix in the last class. So, choosing and implementing a positioning strategy essentially involves identifying a set of possible competitive advantages using various tools like perceptual mapping and others, and Porter's five forces analysis. Then selecting the right competitive advantage, and once I have done that, I have to communicate the competitive advantage to the people by positioning myself in the minds of the public. So essentially, this is what it entails. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty of Porter's five forces analysis, let's look at what a competitive advantage is in essence. There are various ways in which we can define competitive advantage. Okay, as the name suggests, it is something that gives us an advantage over somebody else. Okay, like for example, you are a basketballer and you are taller than most of the other teammates of the opposing team. So basically, when the opposing team is trying to shoot a basket in your side, so you stand near the basket, and the moment it goes out of the basket, you pick up that particular ball, and nobody is able to pick up the ball before you because you are very tall. So height was your competitive advantage. Okay. So whatever differentiates a business firm from its competitors is a competitive advantage. For example, German engineering. In automobile sector, German engineering, or in fact, if you are a student of mechanical engineering, you would have understood that whether it is petrol engine or whether it is diesel engine, so most of the mechanical engineering inventions or discoveries have happened in Germany, and so essentially the Germans have basically taken mechanical engineering or automobile engineering to very high levels of R&D, and obviously a German make car itself carries a huge branding. So basically there are certain German car companies which just advertise themselves as Das Auto, which basically in German means the car, and it's in German, so basically it's got German engineering, and it's got the entire hundreds of years of German engineering and competence and technological brilliance behind that particular car. So they don't have to say anything else. A Nike says just do it. Okay. So that means in a sense the brand promise that it carries, it possibly differentiates, or if a person feels that, well, as compared to a Bata, if I basically own a Nike, it will not just give me a a greater social prestige or a esteem, but it will also basically have a product assurance that it is going to be a very good product in terms of crafting of the product, design of the product, and so on and so forth, aesthetics of the product. So I might be willing to pay a premium over it. So something that differentiate a business from its competitors. So essentially, if I have a competitive advantage, then I can run with this competitive advantage for a number of years. Of course, it is not assured that जो मेरा competitive advantage था 1980s में, changing market के साथ वो competitive advantage 1990s में या 2000 में या 2010 में या 2020 में मुझे help करेगा. इसका कोई गारंटी नहीं है, बट so therefore I will have to look at the market, I will have to look at the external forces, and I will have to also look at my core competencies, and I will have to redesign my core competencies fitting with what the consumer needs are in the market. So first, it is something that differentiate a business from its competitors. One, it is what separates you from everyone else. Okay, so you will find that many of your friends, some of them would be very good singers, some of them are very trustworthy people, they give you a very patient ear, some people are have a very good oratory skills. So something that differentiates you from all the other members of the class is basically your core competence or your competitive advantage. So similarly, years of so basically if you look at the Tata group, now Jamshedji Tata set up Tata Steel in Jamshedpur long back, hundreds of years back. So obviously, as compared to let's say a Maruti Suzuki sorry, as compared to let's say a Jindal Steel, Tata Steel would have years of experience behind it. So in terms of core competence, in terms of engineering know-how, Tata Steel would have a legacy behind it as well. Like LIC in India has been around for almost 70 years throughout our independence. But suppose a new player comes into the market, and so these days people when they say that मुझे life insurance कराना है, some people use the word मुझे LIC कराना है. So LIC has almost become a generic name for life insurance. So if you have this kind of legacy, then why not use it in your advertising tools? Okay, so and so on and so forth. So essentially, you should know your own competence. So what separates you from everyone else? Like recently there was a SBI campaign in which they had said that Rabindranath Tagore was an SBI account holder, Mahatma Gandhi was an SBI account holder, because SBI has been in existence before independence and its name was Imperial Bank of India. So if I have that kind of legacy, so as compared to an Axis Bank or as compared to an HDFC Bank, which never has this legacy, I can definitely use this legacy in my advertisements and my commercials. Okay, so knowing truly what differentiates me from the others is a very important component. So बहुत बार खुद को मालूम नहीं होता है कि मेरे अंदर क्या खूबियां हैं, right? Okay, so another way of looking at what competitive advantages is, it is usually the reason why you are in business. Okay, like for example, people might say that टाटा मोटर्स ट्रक्स या कार्स क्यों बनाता है? वही 100 करोड़ रुपया अगर वो बैंक में रखते हैं या कोई अच्छा हेज फंड में वो पैसा डालते हैं, तो दे विल बेसिकली मल्टीप्लाई दैट. वो लोग 100 करोड़ को 200 करोड़ बना देंगे. तो व्हाट इज द पर्पस ऑफ पुटिंग दैट पर्टिकुलर कैपिटल इन मेकिंग ट्रक्स और मेकिंग ऑटोमोबाइल्स? इफ द रिटर्न ऑन दैट पर्टिकुलर कैपिटल, जिसको हम लोग बोलते हैं रेट ऑफ रिटर्न, इफ इट इज नॉट मोर देन द कॉस्ट ऑफ कैपिटल and with a significant premium over that, then there is no point of being in business. So essentially, post liberalization, the Tata Group also decided that they should exit from certain businesses in which, if they have to compete with the Hindustan Unilever or Procter and Gamble in the FMCG business, they would not be able to basically justify the return on their capital. And so, therefore, if I cannot be number one or number two, then possibly my rate of return that I'm going to get on my money is not going to be high enough for me to justify my presence in that business. So essentially, competitive advantage, जैसे टाटा ग्रुप को हॉस्पिटैलिटी के अंदर उनका years of experience है. So Taj Hotels, now Reliance has a lot of money, but if the Reliance Group comes up with a hotel, will it be able to compete with Taj in terms of its legacy, in terms of its core competence, in terms of its competitive advantage, in ability to train people and manpower handling and hospitality and speaking good English and communicating with the customers and housekeeping skills and so on and so forth. So obviously years of experience are cannot be replaced very easily. Of course, you can have a ownership can change. Suppose the Taj group of hotels is taken over by let's say Reliance in the next whatever subsequent future. But then the people who are managing it, if they are not given the autonomy to retain that core competency, then over a period of time the image will change. And if the image changes, then people will possibly not treat that as वो बात नहीं है नए ब्रांड के अंदर. और एक टाइप का डेफिनेशन हो सकता है, इट आंसर्स द क्वेश्चन व्हाई शुड आई बाय फ्रॉम यू. यू नो, आपसे मैं क्यों खरीदूं, आप में क्या ऐसी बात है जो मैं कॉम्पिटिटर के पास नहीं पा सकता हूँ. यू नो, सो आपके मिठाई के दुकान में क्या बात है कि दूसरे मिठाई के दुकान में मैं नहीं खा सकता हूँ. सो सपोज आई एम हंग्री एंड इफ आई वांट टू ईट सम स्नैक्स, why should I eat at Haldiram's and why should I not eat at another player who's also offering puri and sabzi etc. Okay, so क्या खास बात है. So McDonald's में मैं क्यों खाऊं and वड़ा पाव क्यों नहीं खाऊं मैं. तो मैकडोनल्ड्स में ऐसा क्या है जो वड़ा पाव आउटलेट में नहीं है. वो भी 20-30 रुपए का मुझे वड़ा पाव देता है, मैकडोनल्ड्स भी मुझे 30-40 रुपए का बर्गर देता है. सो पॉसिबली हाइजीन है, एक अश्योरेंस है, ब्रांड अश्योरेंस है, क्लीनलीनेस है, एयर कंडीशनिंग एनवायरनमेंट है, ओके, एंड सो ऑन एंड सो फोर्थ. एक कर्टियस सर्विस है, एक इंग्लिश स्पीकिंग स्टाफ है which itself conveys a certain kind of assurance and so on and so forth. So एक सर्विस क्वालिटी है जिसके लिए वो प्रीमियम देने के लिए तैयार है. Okay. Also, it is what it is not. It is not a list of strengths. It is not a मेरे अंदर ये strengths है तो ये मेरा core competence है. Strengths बाकी लोगों के पास भी वो हो सकते हैं. What do you have which is different from what others have and which people find, which customers find valuable? Okay, you might have XYZ strengths, but if those XYZ strengths are not perceived by the market as valuable things, then what is the use? Okay, तो मार्केट को एक तो पता होना चाहिए कि ये आप हैं, और मार्केट को आपको वो चीज उनको वैल्यूएबल लगना चाहिए. Okay, so so you source your coffee from, let's say, Guatemala, or you source your coffee from New Guinea. अभी उनको क्या फर्क पड़ता है, न्यू गिनी से आप सोर्स करते हैं कि झुमरी तलैया से सोर्स करते हैं. उनको उनको जिस चीज से मतलब है वो है, फॉर एग्जांपल अगर उनको अच्छा टेस्ट चाहिए कॉफी में, अच्छा टेस्ट होना चाहिए. ओके, एंड सो ऑन एंड सो फोर्थ. सो ऑब्वियसली कस्टमर अगर उस चीज को वैल्यू नहीं करता है तो फिर वो आपका कोर कॉम्पिटेंस आपके लिविंग रूम में हो सकता है, लेकिन मार्केट के अंदर वो आपका कोर कॉम्पिटेंस नहीं हो सकता. सो वेदर इट इज कोर कॉम्पिटेंस, वेदर इट इज कॉम्पिटिटिव एडवांटेज, इट इज रेलेवेंट फॉर an individual, it is relevant for an organization, it is relevant for countries also. In countries के context में हम लोग उसको बोलते हैं comparative advantage, जो रिकार्डो ने जो थियरी बोला था इकोनॉमिक्स में. So essentially, what is involved in the process of creating a competitive advantage? एक तो as I said right now, competitor analysis is necessary, and दूसरा है competitive marketing strategies के बारे में ध्यान देना पड़ेगा. So to plan competitive marketing strategies, you have to start with knowing all that you can about your competitors. Okay, now there are various tools of how to know about competitors. So you can start with you can start with industry analysis. Now, what is an industry? Essentially, industry can be defined as a group of firms that produce products that are close substitutes of each other. Okay, like for example, if I look at the footwear industry, now Nike, Adidas, Puma, Reebok, etc., these can be called as close substitutes. So if I'm thinking of buying a sports shoes, so Nike के दुकान में मैं गया और मुझे वो कलर्स नहीं मिले जो मुझे पसंद है, तो I might go to a neighboring store of Puma, right? I might go to a neighboring store of Adidas, but possibly if I don't go to a neighboring store of Bata, then possibly the in the minds of the consumer, Nike and Bata are not close competitors of each other. But a consumer, suppose, is neutral regarding Nike versus Puma, Puma versus Reebok, Reebok versus Adidas. So in the minds of the consumer, these brands are close substitutes of each other. So in a sense, an industry is a group of firms that produce products that are considered as close substitutes of each other. वैसे आप देखा जाए तो if a person is thinking of purchasing sports shoes, एंड यू माइट से दैट वेल स्पोर्ट शूज के जगह पे वो हवाई चप्पल भी पहन सकता है, वो लेदर शूज भी पहन सकता है, बट लेदर शूज का जो मार्केट है पॉसिबली माइट नॉट बी सच अ क्लोज कॉम्पिटिटर फॉर स्पोर्ट शूज का मार्केट। तो ऑफिस वेयर के लिए वो लेदर शूज प्रेफर कर रहा है, लेकिन स्पोर्ट्स वेयर के लिए वो नाइकी पूमा एक्सेट्रा प्रेफर कर रहा है। सो ऑफिस वेयर के सेगमेंट के अंदर शायद रेड टेप हो जाएगा या हाश पपीज हो जाएगा, सो अदर ब्रांड्स विल बी कंसिडर्ड क्लोज सब्स्टिट्यूट्स ऑफ ईच अदर। So you can define industry in a narrow sense, like sports shoes, formal shoes, okay, uh, like for example फेस्टिव वेयर के लिए आपको, शादी वगैरह के लिए आपको अगर सपोज कुर्ता पजामा के साथ अगर कोई शूज पहनना है, so that could be another type of shoes. So your how you define the industry can be in a broad sense, footwear, all footwear is an industry, or it can be in a narrow sense also. So essentially you can start with defining what an industry is. Like for example थोड़ा broader sense में अगर आप define करेंगे beverage industry, तो वैसे देखा जाए तो बेवरेज इंडस्ट्री के अंदर कॉफी भी आ जाएगा, टी भी आ जाएगा, लस्सी भी आ जाएगा, मिनरल वाटर भी आ जाएगा। तो इफ आई डिफाइन द इंडस्ट्री एज बेवरेज इंडस्ट्री, लेट्स से कोका कोला इज प्रोड्यूसिंग, किनली आल्सो इट इज प्रोड्यूसिंग, कोका कोला आल्सो इट इज प्रोड्यूसिंग, फैंटा आल्सो इट इज प्रोड्यूसिंग, लिम्का आल्सो, so all of them then, so basically one can say that coca cola belongs to the beverage industry, right? Pepsi also is serving the market by by catering to these needs and producing goods which are catering to exactly the same needs as Coca-Cola is. So in that sense, Coca-Cola should and can consider Pepsi as its competitor based on being in the same industry. But please appreciate that Amul Lassi is also technically the competitor of Coca-Cola, because instead of Coca-Cola, if somebody becomes health conscious and he is quenching his thirst, then Amul ka Lassi might also be a substitute of that technically. So one can define substitutes narrowly or in a broad manner. For example, if suppose you have leisure time on your hands, so in that leisure time you can go to a park and you can take a walk for half an hour, and you can also watch a television program on TV. So essentially for a TV program, park is actually a substitute because it is vying for the same time of that particular consumer, right? So even a mall would be a substitute of a park, and that would be a substitute of a book. So I can read a book on Kindle, I can watch a television program during that time, or I can take a park during that time, or I can have a phone conversation with my friend. So basically, Airtel and park and mall visit, all of these are actually substitutes of each other because it is vying for my leisure time. सो कंपटीशन को आप ब्रॉड सेंस में भी देख सकते हैं, नैरो सेंस में भी देख सकते हैं. सो एज अ मार्केटर यू हैव टू बी अ वेरी वेरी गुड स्टूडेंट ऑफ ह्यूमन बिहेवियर, and you should be a very good student of trends that are going on around you. Okay, right. Now specifically coming to what Mr. Michael E. Porter, who was from the Harvard University professor and a marketing guru, what Michael E. Porter says about competition. So, Porter is considered an authority in the field of competitive advantage and competitive strategy, and his entire life work, essentially his flagship work, is in the field of this particular area. So, as students of management, this is essential to get an idea about how to go about doing competition analysis. Essentially, what Michael Porter has said is that there are five factors or five forces that influences competition in an industry. So we have just seen the meaning of an industry. Industry consists of a group of those companies or those organizations which produce products that are close substitutes of each other. So there are five forces that influence competition in an industry. First, he says threat of new entrants. Threat of new entrants. Like in the field of playback singing, for example. So Lata Mangeshkar would consider, let's say, Asha Bhosle as a new entrant, or she would consider, let's say, Aruna Lela as a new entrant, or she would consider in later years Alka Yagnik as a new entrant. Anuradha Podwal as a new entrant, or Kishore Kumar would consider, let's say, a Bhupendra as a new entrant. So essentially, in any field, you'll find that if you have established yourself as a market leader or a number one or a number two in a field, and there are newer entrants who are coming up and they are offering a much better or a competitive product or reasonably good product to the same market, then you would obviously be anxious. So threat of new entrants. So from the point of view of existing companies, threat of new entrants would be something that you would want to track. इसको track करना जरूरी है. That is what Porter says. So this is the first one, threat of new entrants. नया player. The second important point that Porter talked about was threat of substitute products or services. Like if you take an example of a existing car company, let's say Hyundai India. Okay, Hyundai produces i10, i20, etc. These cars. Now, for Hyundai India, what would be substitute products? Other car brands like Suzuki, General Motors, Ford, etc. Other vehicles or other automobiles, okay, whether it is two-wheelers or whether it is other four-wheelers like SUVs, etc. Other types of transportation, let's say metro. So in a city where somebody is looking to buy a car, but then the authorities have announced, let's say a city like Pune, that they are building a metro. So people would postpone their car purchase because they would be able to travel from home to office and office to home in the comfort of the metro without having to think about parking, without having to think about petrol, without having to think about maintenance of the car and so on and so forth. So essentially, other transportation services like mass rapid transport system, okay, suppose buses का बहुत अच्छा services improve हो गया, so he might postpone buying a car. In fact, other major consumer durables might also be a substitute. So they are thinking of buying a new fridge or they are thinking of buying a new car on installments. So if suppose fridge wins over, then purchase of car will get postponed. So other major consumer durables will also be this thing. Or going on a vacation might also be a substitute for Hyundai. Or even booking a new home or home repairs. So इस साल हम लोग थोड़ा होम रिपेयर्स के ऊपर खर्चा कर लेते हैं, कार अगले साल खरीदेंगे. There could be so many substitutes. So essentially, from a marketer's point of view, one should always try to avoid competitor myopia. Myopia means short-sightedness. So if you are so obsessed with, say, Hyundai is obsessed with, let's say, WagonR, or Hyundai is obsessed with, say, Honda का कोई particular brand, okay, or Maruti का Desire brand, to the extent that it forgets about what the consumer's needs and wants are. So the consumer is not interested in buying a car only because of the parking problem in that city. And he's thinking of, say, Uber and others will become basically his means of transportation in case of long distances. And for short distances, he prefers public transportation. Right. Or for health reasons, he prefers walking to and fro from the metro station and back. And therefore, metro is a good choice for him. So all of these aspects will have to be considered by a marketer. So threat of substitute products is essentially a very, very important component. The third point that Porter talks about is the bargaining power of suppliers. So we will talk about that in more details. And the fourth point he talks about is the bargaining power of buyers. And the fifth point is, as a result of 1, 2, 3, 4, essentially the rivalry between current members of the industry. So in a sense, this is a separate point also, but actually 1, 2, 3 and 4 actually contribute towards competitive rivalry between the current members of the industry. Okay. So our discussion is going to focus on one by one each of these points. So Essentially, these are the five. We are again summarizing it in a different way. Industry rivalry, threat of substitutes, bargaining power of buyers, bargaining power of suppliers, and barriers to entry. Okay, threat of new entrants. These are essentially the five forces that Michael Porter said that these are the ones that influence competition in an industry. So कंप्यूटर एनालिसिस करने के लिए हम लोग को बारी बारी से इनको समझना पड़ेगा. Okay, let us begin our discussion with the first of these, threat of new entrants. So essentially, what does Porter talk about? Threat of new entrants. Let's say, for example, a classic example would be in the 1980s, there were very few automobile brands in India because essentially the use of automobiles was a nascent industry at that time. Okay, so essentially, when Maruti got permission to set up its plant in the 1980s, so it dominated the market with almost 100% of share. The other players were the Premier Padmini brand owned by the Doshis, and the other was in the east of the country, the Hindustan Motors, you owned the and the Ambassador brand. So Ambassador, Premier Padmini, and Maruti were the leading players in the market. Now, post liberalization, the moment new entrants entered the market, the existing players got jittery. Now, whether in terms of R&D, whether in terms of better engine technology, whether in terms of better styling and aesthetics, in terms of overall mechanical engineering know-how, in all of these aspects, most of the other players in the world, whether it was the Germans, whether it was the Americans, they were at least 25 to 30 years ahead of us in mechanical engineering technology. So obviously, the threat of new entrants was a very real threat for all the existing players, both in the two-wheelers as well as in the four-wheelers market, in fact, in the three-wheeler market also. In fact, people like Rahul Bajaj were on record saying that the government must give us a few years of level playing field so that we are in a position to compete against these world players. So the threat of new competitors in an industry is a real threat. Now, how did some of the existing Indian players cope with this threat? Of course, the government did not really allow all these new players to repatriate all their profits right away. So there was some lock-in period. There was some, you know, in terms of the capital structure, there was a limit as to how much they could invest. So there were many of these foreign players were also forced to enter into JVs, that is joint ventures with the existing players. So Honda and Hero entered into a joint venture. TVS in the south and Suzuki Group, they formed a joint venture for two-wheelers. Bajaj and Kawasaki, which is a Japanese company, had a two-wheeler for bikes. So obviously there was a kind of transfer of technology partially, and there was equal sharing of, or proportionate sharing of profits. Over a period of time, 100% FDI allow होने के बाद, today Activa can produce scooters in India under the Honda brand name without having to basically share its profits with Hero. So Hero Honda as an entity has now got dissolved, and Hero has gone separate, and the Munjal group, Hero has gone separate, whereas the Honda group is operating as a completely, they can repatriate 100% of their profits. So it's a 100% subsidiary. So with these kind of policies, so the existing players like Hero, etc., will have to up their game in R&D. They will have to start thinking about very good design, styling, etc. So it is they are being thrown open to the market forces, thrown open to the wolves, so to speak. Now, the reason for Indian players not really being able to up their game in the 1970s and 80s was that in the closed economy, closed market scenario, they were having to grapple with a lot of government regulations such as MRTP, FERA, that is Foreign Exchange Regulations Act, license permit quota regime, etc. So they were more interested in holding, and they were more interested in releasing the manufactured goods at a slower rate so that they could extract the maximum amount of price per item. But in the buyer's market, the entire thing changes. So the problem is, Michael Porter basically says that it is easy for these new entrants. If it is easy for the new entrants to enter the market and the entry barriers are low, let's say in the 1980s, you also had a brand from Western India, that is Nirma, competing with the existing market leader Surf, which was a HUL brand, by saying that वही धुलाई आपको मिलेगा कम दाम में. You have a Ghadi, you have a Sasa. These are all homegrown brands. So घड़ी का जो ओनर है कानपुर का ओनर है, so इसे पहले इस्तेमाल करो फिर विश्वास करो. So just you put a TV spot which is telecast on prime time all across the country, and everybody knows about Ghadi, the brand. So essentially the entry barrier is very low. But on the other hand, let's say Reliance Industries Limited, which is petrochemical plant, thousands and thousands of crores को लगा के जामनगर में और ये सब जगह पे petroleum plant बनाया. Now it is not very easy for somebody else to set up a similar scale petrochemical unit. Okay, so the entry barrier is very high in petrochemical business, but entry barrier might not be very high in the detergents business. Entry barrier can still be high in a two-wheeler business because it is not very easy to produce the kind of engine technology that can compete against a Piaggio or a Activa or other brands who have, or TVS, which have been investing in R&D for decades now. Okay, so कुछ industries के अंदर entry barriers काफी high हो सकते हैं because of proprietary technology, licenses, patents, etc. जैसे जेनेरिक ड्रग्स के अंदर, फार्मास्यूटिकल के अंदर एंट्री बैरियर्स आर प्रीटी लो. कोई भी उस फॉर्मूला को अगर अलग तरीके से, अगर मॉलिक्यूल को अलग तरह से बना सकता है, एंड ही कैन से दैट वेल आई हैव नॉट वायलेटेड एनी पेटेंट. बट सपोज उस पर्टिकुलर ड्रग का किसी कंपनी का, सपोज ग्लैक्सो के पास पेटेंट है, और कोई भी कंपनी वो वाला ड्रग इतने 5 साल तक नहीं बना सकता है, वो फॉर्मूला घुमा फिरा के भी नहीं बना सकता है. सो इन दैट केस द threat of entry into certain kind of drugs, pharmaceutical drugs, are going to be difficult. So therefore, venture capitalists or industrialists, before they put money into a new project, they always ask the inventor, do you have a patent on this? अगर आपके पास patent है, that means threat of entry of new entrants is low, and therefore I can milk it, or I can get the benefit of it for a longer period of time. Right, so this is essentially what he says, and so it was explained in a very simple manner, and therefore people really liked this particular concept. So this is one of the forces that shape the competitive structure of an industry. Okay. Further, some more points about threat of new entrants. The threat of new entrants that Porter created affects the competitive environment for the existing competitors and influences the ability of the existing firms to achieve profitability. So ultimately profitability आपका affect होगा. Like for example, if there is a leading star in Bollywood जिसको अगला फिल्म मिलने वाला था, लेकिन कोई नया स्टार आ गया, okay, so उसको डिथ्रोन कर गया, so 2-3 पिक्चरें उसके नए स्टार के हिट हो गए, so the existing star feels challenged. So if suppose a hero like Amitabh Bachchan is ruling the roost, and suppose a new hero comes in, okay, say whatever, a new hero comes in, Anil Kapoor comes in, and then a few films of his become hit. So Amitabh Bachchan would feel slightly underconfident, or he would feel slightly shaky. So the same thing is basically felt in the business sector also. So ideally, what do leading players want to do? Number one, number two, what they want to do? They would like to erect barriers to new entrants. Now, in that case, it depends on how badly the new entrant wants to basically be in that business. So if you create conditions where that particular new entrant wants to sell off certain proprietary technology, okay, let's say IT firms, it is very common. If suppose Infosys wants to enter the Malaysian market, and or some advertising agency wants to enter some Indian market, and there are one or two very good graphic designer firms in India, then that big advertising firm takes over these graphic designer firms and then merges it into its own business. So a lot of acquisitions happen, especially if you have deeper pockets, then you gobble up a new entrant. For example, Thumbs Up, a leading brand in India, was taken over by Coca-Cola when it entered India in the 1990s. So Ramesh Chauhan of Parle Agro sold off Coca-Cola, sold off other brands like Limca to this because the uh, Coca-Cola was an established player who had entered the market. So technically for them, the existing brand Thumbs Up was a threat, right? So it was a kind of the new entrant considered the existing player as a threat to it, right? Uh, More specifically, what are the barriers to entry? One is, of course, one of the barriers to entry, threat of new entrants के लिए barrier to entry is cost advantages independent of size. What does this mean? The entrenched competitors may have cost advantage related to size. Okay, so for example, suppose VIP is trying to enter the American market and VIP wants to place his bags on the supermarket shelves like JC Penney and other big brands, right, of USA supermarkets, Walmart and others. But suppose existing players like American Tourister, existing players like Samsonite, which have been homegrown American brands for n number of years, who have been doing business with Walmart and other supermarket brands, they have got a first right of refusal regarding shelf space. So therefore, VIP will find it very difficult to occupy shelf space, and they will also have to pump in a lot of money to advertise to gain the attention of the American consumer. So in many markets, Indian players have not been able to really enter into those markets because of the entrenched competition. Entrenched competitors may have cost advantage related to size. However, there have been certain players like Bajaj, etc., which have been very successful in Southeast Asian companies like Cambodia, Vietnam, exporting two-wheelers and three-wheelers, and they have been exporting their two-wheelers and three-wheelers to Nigeria and other markets. So, developing countries के अंदर बजाज जा पाया है, लेकिन developed countries के अंदर possibly three-wheelers एक अनोखा चीज है. So many a times there are certain regulatory aspects also. Okay. Yes, a granting of a license, government and legal barriers is also a very big threat. So, like for example, when the Reliance supermarket wanted to set up in various parts of the country, they were successful also, but certain governments like Uttar Pradesh government did not give them a license. So the supermarkets of Reliance, Reliance Fresh, etc., did not really pick up in certain states because the government licenses were not forthcoming. Because the existing political players at that time thought that the local vendors, vegetable vendors, and the existing agricultural marketing system would be disrupted by the threat of unorganized player in the retailing sector. So, in knowledge industries, also biotechnology, etc., software, patents, trademarks, and copyrights form a major threat or barrier to entry. Okay, so the third is, of course, distribution channels are often hard to crack. So my existing distribution channel, which I have a well-oiled machinery, and this would be built over years, and therefore to build another Walmart in the US would be very tough with its existing supply chain and its network. So currently people are talking about imposing sanctions on China, but China has built its global supply chain network over the last 20-25 years. So it's not going to be very easy for global majors to shift their subcontracting activities from China to other parts of the world. And therefore it is easier said than done that a new player is going to basically completely come and become the factory of the world. It's not going to be that easy. There would be a high threat of entry of new competitors when it is easy to break a market. So profitability does not require too much economies of scale. जैसे पेट्रोकेमिकल के अंदर बहुत economies of scale की जरूरत पड़ती है, लेकिन जहाँ पे profitability does not require too much of economies of scale, then you can come with new players. For example, graphic design. Now, if somebody is a very good graphic designer and there are suppose 5 or 6 players in India which are very good graphic design firms, so I can set up a new graphic design firm and I can basically get a lot of business. Or a law firm. I can set up a law firm if I have a group of very good lawyers which I can basically poach from some of the existing law firms and they get their clients with them. So I can have a renowned law firm within 4 or 5 years. I can build a very good brand. सो जहाँ पे इकोनॉमीज ऑफ स्केल इतना मैटर नहीं करता है, बड़े बड़े प्रोसेस इंडस्ट्रीज या लॉन्ग जेस्टेशन पीरियड के इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर इंडस्ट्रीज अगर नहीं है, तो फिर थ्रेट देयर इज अ हाई थ्रेट ऑफ एंट्री ऑफ न्यू कॉम्पिटिटर्स. सो व्हिच इंडस्ट्री आई चूज टू बी इन, I will also have to understand that, well, in this industry there will be a lot of people who are going to eat away at my market share. Profits are undifferentiated, products are undifferentiated. Like for example, cement. Now cement का ब्रांडिंग करते तो है लोग, जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल जो आरसीसी स्ट्रक्चर बनाने के लिए जो बार लगता है, स्टील बार लगता है, तो स्टील बार होता है. अभी ब्रांड ए का हो या ब्रांड बी का हो, द प्रोडक्ट्स आर अनडिफरेंशिएटेड. तो अगर किसी स्टील कंपनी के ने अगर सपोज आरसीसी स्ट्रक्चर बनाने के लिए बार्स बनाने का धंधा शुरू किया, सो न्यू एंट्रेंट आसानी से उस इंडस्ट्री के अंदर आ सकता है. ओके, ब्रांड नेम्स आर नॉट दैट वेल नोन. ओके, तो अगेन कमोडिटी वाले प्रोडक्ट्स जहां पे ब्रांड नेम्स इतना वेल नोन नहीं है, तो वहां पे आप कंस्ट्रक्शन इक्विपमेंट के लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल लाइम या पेंटिंग के अंदर जो लिपाई पुताई करने का जो सामान है उसका कुछ ब्रांड है, या स्मॉल इलेक्ट्रिकल गैजेट्स जिसका स्विचेस एक्सेट्रा, तो इतने ज्यादा ब्रांड नेम इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है. There are n number of small local players also there in the market, so there a new entrant can easily come and establish itself. Okay, or food products like घर में cottage industry type का food products, जैसे पापड़ बनाने का अगर आपने कुछ फैक्ट्री लगाया, तो वो सुपरमार्केट में अगर बिग बाजार में दे allow you shelf space, so again people might be willing to try it out once upon a time. So ऐसा नहीं कि पापड़ एक particular brand का होने से ही मैं खाऊंगा. Okay, initial investment is low. Okay, so basically the capital cost of investing is low, consumer switching costs are very low, so you can easily make a person switch from one to the other. So for certain things it might not be easy, like for example a bank can attract a savings bank account customer from SBI to ICICI by giving it some incentives, but possibly home loan agar liya hai kisi bank se, it might not be very easy to switch, right? Accessing distribution channels is easy, right? Location is not an issue. So these days a lot of online marketing those people who are able to do. So you are making a very good designer brand of clothing and you can sell basically directly from your warehouse, and because you have a website from which people are ordering. So that has allowed new entrepreneurs to also enter into a very crowded marketplace. Proprietary technology is not an issue. Okay, then proprietary materials is also not an issue. So it's not a particular kind of alloy or a particular kind of product that you have designed or marketed, right? Government policy is not an issue, and expected retaliation from existing firms is also not an issue. So these kind of businesses is where the entry of new competitors can become relatively simpler, and therefore the threat of new entrants should be very high. And conversely, the threat will be low if each of these factors is reversed. Vice versa, agar hai to threat of the new entry will be low. So essentially, the lesson for marketers is that, can I have some proprietary technology which I can patent for a number of years and I can use that for production for a few years. Now, this is exactly what is happening between China and USA. Now, USA is alleging that many Chinese firms जिनको हम लोग ने ड्राइंग दिया है वो मटेरियल को प्रोड्यूस करने के लिए, वो लोग ने मी टू प्रोडक्ट्स बना लिया है चाइना में भी, उनको अलग ब्रांड नेम देके. लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल एक पर्टिकुलर टाइप का मोल्डिंग यूज करके एक सपोज मॉप बनाया है झाड़ू पोछा लगाने के लिए. अभी उस चीज का मॉप का उन्होंने चाइना ने एक थोड़ा सा चेंज करके कंपोनेंट चेंज करके उन्होंने चाइना के लोकल मार्केट के अंदर एक मॉप बेचना शुरू किया उस ड्राइंग को यूज करके. तो बेसिकली पेटेंटिंग का नॉर्म्स अगर वायलेट हो रहा है तो बेसिकली द थ्रेट ऑफ कॉपी कैट्स इज वेरी हाई. ओके, सो प्लेजरिज्म, कॉपी कैट अगर बहुत ज़्यादा हाई है तो फिर थ्रेट ऑफ न्यू कॉम्पिटिटर्स इज वेरी वेरी हाई. ओके, coming to threat of substitute products or services. Okay, so as we saw, substitutes can be defined broadly or it can be defined narrowly. So essentially what Porter says is that the threat of substitute is seen when companies within one industry are forced to compete with industries producing substitute products or services. Say for example, tea and coffee are substitutes of each other. But if tea and coffee are considered as beverages, so लोग अगर घर पे कोई गेस्ट आया तो हम लोग बोलते हैं कि गर्म लेंगे कि ठंडा लेंगे. तो उस सेंस के अंदर गर्म अगर नहीं लेंगे तो फिर ठंडा लेंगे. तो टी कॉफी के साथ कोका कोला विल ऑल्सो बी अ सब्स्टिट्यूट प्रोडक्ट. लस्सी विल ऑल्सो बी अ सब्स्टिट्यूट प्रोडक्ट. कोई बोलेगा नहीं सिर्फ पानी चाहिए मुझे. तो उस सेंस में the consumption of that particular product will have other substitutes. Now, substitutes limit an industry's potential returns by placing a ceiling on the prices that firms can charge. Okay, so if close substitutes are there, for example, let's take a simple case. Let's say the market is the market for information, and let's talk about one of the products, that is newspapers. A lot of people, they have substituted newspapers these days. In the lockdown also, a lot of newspaper vendors are anyway not allowed by many residential societies to enter the premises for fear of people getting contaminated. And in any case, many young people had stopped reading newspapers because they were reading the online news on various social media platforms like Twitter and others. एंड इन एनी केस न्यूज़पेपर जब आपको घर पे आता है 8 बजे या 7:30 बजे, लेकिन आपने वो न्यूज़ ऑलरेडी 12 घंटे पहले पढ़ लिया है, सो स्टेल न्यूज़ वैसे भी आता है. सो बेसिकली न्यूज़पेपर्स आर फेसिंग अ थ्रेट इन टर्म्स ऑफ ऑनलाइन न्यूज़. So a lot of people who prepare for exams like civil services and others who require a lot of current affairs, so they often subscribe to some of the online news channels rather than purchasing newspapers, right? Because newspapers are anyway, they are limited in the sense that कुछ घंटे के बाद वो आपके पास आता है. So उस developing current affairs या news story का latest version आपके पास जब available है तो फिर old version क्यों पढ़ना? So this is a substitute for newspapers. There are 24-hour television channels. So there are at least 100 to 150 channels, of which at least 15-20 channels are news channels. So if suppose you are looking at news as, or information is what you are looking for, then 24-hour news channels are also a competitor for you. Electronic readers, etc. So many of these services, if you subscribe to certain apps, they will give you a capsule of the daily news to you in a very structured manner in terms of economic news separately, etc. So newspapers are also finding that they will have to really change with the changing times. So many newspapers have an online version. Many newspapers are becoming smart in terms of uh, getting a lot of features which are user friendly and so on. In the information industry, let's look at a profession, say journalists. Okay, so if you are a journalist today, you would basically be writing for a particular publication, but suppose the customer is getting, suppose, information on health, customers getting information on technology, information on latest gadgets from user blogs. So suppose there are certain bloggers or YouTubers who are very very prolific. So YouTube videos, user blogs, social media. So journalist ka reason for existence is getting usurped or replaced by a lot of other things. So newspaper industry, journalism as a profession is finding itself at crossroads because of the threat of many substitute products or services. Okay, so this is essentially what it means. What else we can add value to this particular thing? Just take an example of, say, an industry, say soft drink. Coca-Cola versus Pepsi. We are aware of these wars between cola wars. we are aware. So what happens is the relative price performance, because the product differentiation is not much. Both of them are aerated drinks, both of them are uh, not necessarily considered as health drinks. Okay, so to that extent, everything gets neutralized at the level of uh, the product. So what gets differentiated is basically price. So price wars in most of the markets, Coca-Cola, if it is considered as number one, Pepsi comes up with, suppose Pepsi is a late entrant in a particular market, and then it comes up with, let's say, price cuts. So obviously, Coca-Cola and Pepsi, similar products, so people would go for a lower price product. So price wars, if they continue to engage in price wars, then both of them would lose. So essentially, here the buyer switching costs are not very high. So once you basically go and purchase the Coke bottle, and the next time you go and purchase the Pepsi bottle, so the switching costs are not going to be very high. Unlike, let's say, you switch your home loan service provider, then the switching cost might also be high. Or you possibly change your mobile service provider. Then the switching cost might be high. You might have to wait for a few days, and there would be loss of time, etc. So in a restaurant business. Now, what is basically important out here is that the fixed term leasing contracts. So, for a particular restaurant, Coke will offer their fridge free to that particular restaurant owner with a clause that you have to display only Coke products, Coke, Fanta, ये सब products, Limca आप रख सकते हैं. But then for the person who running that restaurant, for him basically if the customer comes and demands Pepsi lana, so he also starts stocking Pepsi. Then the Coke sales executive comes and says आपने Pepsi क्यों रखा है इसमें? मैंने आपको ये फ्रिज दिया था फ्री में. So these kind of negotiations might be very important, and therefore initially when Coke and Pepsi came to India, Pepsi of course came slightly earlier because after Coke was asked to leave from India in 1977 under the Janata government, they made an entry much later. Pepsi made an entry in early 90s and Coke made an entry in the mid 90s. So they used to engage in these wars, and some of them were price wars, but then they stopped the price wars because it was hurting both of them badly. But later on, they also did very aggressive marketing as far as distribution outlet, control of distribution outlet. Typically, the restaurant owners and small dhaba owners, they would give them that exclusive आपको कोक का ही रेफ्रिजरेटर यूज करना है और आपको इसके लिए हम लोग मेंटेनेंस और ये सब करके देंगे पेप्सी का आप रख नहीं सकते सो दिस वाज बेसिकली व्हाट द थिंग resulted in. Then there is something called as bargaining power of suppliers that Porter talks about. Let's say we were earlier discussing the example of VIP luggage. Now, in producing a luggage, suppose there is a frame which is made of aluminium. Now, there is a particular mold which will have to stamp the aluminium that particular way. Now, if suppose they have developed suppliers who are able to really supply that grade of aluminium and stamp it the way the mold is. Now, the molds might be also very expensive. Now, the company might have developed these molds along with the supplier. Now, if this supplier is also supplying to other players like Samsonite and American Tourister, etc., and if suppose that is suppose let's call it as XYZ. So if the XYZ supplier is able to supply a very high quality of product, then all the buyers, whether it is Samsonite or whether it is American Tourister or VIP or Safari or Aristocrat, all of them would basically want to uh, order from this supplier. Now, suppose some of the players want to develop alternate suppliers, a player who can supply aluminium mold of that type, but suppose the quality suffers. In that case, the supplier has a bargaining power. Let's say you have a player like Kalyani Forge or Bharat Forge in Pune. It is considered as a leading player in the world in the forging technology, world class. So, if suppose most of the automobile players in India, if they are sourcing forging products from say this company, so this company will have a high bargaining power vis-a-vis other players, other forging players. So essentially, suppliers are likely to be powerful if supplier industry is dominated by a few firms, demand and supply. Suppliers' products have few substitutes. Okay, buyer is not an important customer to the supplier because there are many buyers. तो अगर suppose भारत forge के लिए अगर suppose let's say Hyundai is trying to say that आप किसी और को नहीं बेच सकते हैं, जैसे नहीं फिर आप जाके कोई और सप्लायर डेवलप करो, हम तो मारुति को भी बेचेंगे, हम तो जनरल मोटर्स को भी बेचेंगे, राइट. Supplier's product is an important input to the buyer's product because वो component बहुत जरूरी है. तो suppose एक particular से मार्बल कटिंग के अंदर सपोज वो सॉ विच इज डायमंड टिप्ड, अभी वो सॉ का डायमंड टिप्ड का जो अगर सपोज वो टूट गया तो फिर मार्बल कट नहीं कर पाएंगे. तो डायमंड टिप का जो टेक्नोलॉजी है जो स्टील के साथ डायमंड को टिप करके वो जोड़ता है, वो सप्लायर जो है जो डायमंड सप्लाई करता है या वो जो सॉ का वो जो बनाता है एज बनाता है, वो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है. अदरवाइज आपका दिन में 4 बार सॉ टूट जाएगा. तो वो सप्लायर को आपको बेसिकली अच्छे से पाल पोस के रखना पड़ेगा. Suppliers products are differentiated. Suppliers products have high switching cost. So that means supplier in itself अगर suppose बहुत high bargaining power है तो बहुत बार क्या करते हैं, तो some firms they indulge in backward integration. So if I am producing let's say say ready-made garments and suppose my raw material supplier, सपोज कॉटन सप्लायर जो है, कॉटन यार्न सप्लायर है, उसका बहुत अच्छा कॉटन है, तो आई पॉसिबली टेक ओवर हिज फर्म. और सपोज कॉटन यार्न का सप्लायर है, उसका फार्मर है जो कॉटन बना रहा है, एक पर्टिकुलर टाइप का कॉटन बना रहा है, आई टेक अप हिज फार्म ओनली. सो जितना पॉसिबल है कि अगर आप बैकवर्ड इंटीग्रेशन कर सकते हैं, दैट मींस यू ओन द एंटायर वैल्यू चेन. सो मेनी अ टाइम्स योर स्ट्रेटेजी, कॉम्पिटिटिव स्ट्रेटेजी को न्यूट्रलाइज करने के लिए one of the things to neutralize bargaining power of suppliers is to take over the supplier's firm only, right? Then some other factors that affect the bargaining power of suppliers, we have just summarized that whatever we had discussed in the previous slide. Threat of vertical integration, this is what I basically just talked about. It is possible that the supplier cuts off the middleman and sells straight to the customer. Okay, in that case the supplier is itself trying to do forward integration. Okay, so supplier is let's say company A and I am company B. So today I am taking from supplier A and I am selling it to customer C. So if the supplier directly sells to customer C, suppose agricultural marketer जो होलसेलर है या एग्रीकल्चरल मार्केटर है, वो फार्मर से खरीदता है और फिर कस्टमर को बेचता है. अगर फार्मर डायरेक्टली कस्टमर के पास चला गया, रेसिडेंशियल हाउसिंग सोसाइटी में बेचने लगा, तब क्या हो जाएगा, तब जो एग्रीकल्चरल मार्केटर है या बड़ा बड़ा जो होलसेलर है उसका धंधा खराब हो जाए. सो दीज काइंड ऑफ फोर्सेस कैन आल्सो अफेक्ट योर profitability. The other important point is bargaining power of buyers. Okay. Bargaining power of buyers means the person who is buying, he has a bargaining power. Let's say right now we have a standoff between China and USA. जैसे सोयाबीन्स, ओके, यूएस सोयाबीन बनाता है, यूएस के जो फार्मर है मिडिल अमेरिका में बहुत सोयाबीन बनाते हैं. इनफैक्ट चाइना इज वन ऑफ द हाईएस्ट कंज्यूमर्स ऑफ सोयाबीन. चाइनीज क्विजीन के अंदर सोयाबीन का बहुत यूज होता है, सोयाबीन सॉस एक्सेट्रा के लिए, एंड मोस्ट ऑफ इट इज सोर्स्ड फ्रॉम द यूएसए. तो इन अ सेंस अगर चाइना स्टॉप्स बाइंग सोयाबीन फ्रॉम द यूएस फार्मर्स, सो द यूएस फार्मर्स विल सफर. So China can arm to its US farmers if it starts buying soybean from some other country instead of USA, because it is one of the leading consumers of this thing. Likewise, US is one of the leading importers of apparel and footwear from China. Now, China का major exports of apparel and footwear, the destination is USA. So tomorrow, if the US basically arm twists China and says that we will not buy apparel and footwear from you and we will buy it from other players, that means as a buyer, USA is arm twisting China. This is exactly what has happened in USA since January 2019. So the tariff wars that have been happening. So each of them is threatening the other. Now, as a result of this, essentially what gets disrupted is the global supply chain, because China as a factory of the world and all the other players, whether they are trading with China or they are trading with US or otherwise, the entire global supply chain gets disrupted, right? So when does a buyer group become powerful? A buyer group becomes powerful when buyers are concentrated. Okay, so अगर आप buying अगर एक साथ करते हैं, okay, say fishermen's cooperatives, right, और consumer cooperatives. So consumers अगर suppose इकट्ठा होके अगर suppose they go to the real estate developer and they say that हम लोग 10 लोग एक साथ फ्लैट बुक करना चाहते हैं और आप कितना डिस्काउंट दे सकते हैं, आप दे सकते हैं, आप बताइए, अदरवाइज हम लोग किसी और रियल एस्टेट डेवलपर के पास जाएंगे और उससे खरीदेंगे. So if the buyers are concentrated, then the buyers group are likely to be more powerful. Purchase accounts for a significant fraction of suppliers' sales. Products are undifferentiated. Buyers face few switching costs. So products are undifferentiated का मतलब है कि अगर सपोज कोई सीमेंट बेच रहा है और सपोज एक बड़ा रियल एस्टेट फर्म बोलता है कि एक सीमेंट कंपनी को बोलता है कि ए वर्सेस बी, तो बोलता है कि हम आपसे 1,000 टन सीमेंट खरीदेंगे, आप कितना डिस्काउंट दोगे? तो दूसरा वाला बोलता है, तो ही सेज दैट नहीं हम लोग डिस्काउंट नहीं दे सकते, तो ओके आई विल बाय इट फ्रॉम सीमेंट कंपनी बी, बिकॉज सीमेंट सीमेंट ही होता है, अनडिफरेंशिएटेड है. तो आपका सीमेंट उसके सीमेंट से बेहतर है ऐसा अगर सपोज कस्टमर को नहीं लगता है, then the customer will be able to have more power over the seller. Similarly, buyers face few switching costs. So अगर सपोज एक रियल एस्टेट डेवलपर के साथ आपने फ्लैट बुक किया और सपोज आपने उस बुकिंग को कैंसिल किया और किसी और रियल एस्टेट डेवलपर के साथ आपने बुकिंग किया फ्लैट. सो अगर स्विचिंग कॉस्ट अगर कुछ भी नहीं है, आपने केवल बोला था कि हाँ मैं कल आ जाऊंगा और उसके अलावा आपने कुछ डिपॉजिट फीस वगैरह नहीं दिया था, then the buyers will easily have more bargaining power. So in a buyer's market scenario, typically uh, buyer has full information. In that case also, typically the bargaining power of buyers will be high. जैसे फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर आप आजकल इलेक्ट्रॉनिक आइटम अगर लैपटॉप खरीदने जा रहे हो, you do a lot of research on the internet and then you go to a particular laptop showroom and then you say that suppose I want to buy this particular model, then he says that नहीं इसमें तो डिस्काउंट नहीं मिलेगा, then he says नहीं नहीं हमारे पास तो पूरा लिस्ट है डिस्काउंट्स का, then you will have more bargaining power over the seller. The seller will have to basically then give you a discount, right? So when it comes to bargaining power of buyers, bargaining power of suppliers, threat of substitutes and threat of new entrants, all of these forces together will lead to what is known as industry rivalry. Okay, so rivalry is basically the culmination of all these aspects. So rivalry या competition. So let's briefly discuss competitive rivalry between current members of the industry. Okay, what is industry rivalry? We have watched many films in which corporates are at loggerheads with each other, and then they do a lot of things to poach some of their valuable employees, and then they do corporate espionage, and then they find out its new product launch kab hone wala hai. They try to sabotage it. They try to find out using spying की प्रोडक्ट का फीचर्स क्या है, या कोई टेंडर वो लोग दोनों कंपनी किसी बड़ा टेंडर फिल कर रहे हैं तो कितना उसका कोट है. So the industry rivalry takes on a lot of interesting forms. So essentially, it's all about competitive strategy. So what do I do today based on what I believe or perceive my competitor is going to do hence. So इसको हम लोग बोलते हैं tactics. Okay. So strategies and tactics. Tactics are more short term, strategies are slightly more long term. For example, price competition. So the cola wars in India also we have seen Pepsi and Coke jostling for each other for the market share by reducing the prices. अभी आप प्राइसेस रिड्यूस करके करके क्या करेंगे, आपको एडवर्टाइजिंग का भी खर्चा करना पड़ रहा है, एट द सेम टाइम आपका जो रेवेन्यूज है आपका कम हो जा रहा है. So more or less they come to an understanding that we will not engage in price competition beyond a particular point. There are certain industries where the industry rivalry इतना ज्यादा हो जाता है कि the firms have to sit together and they have to basically almost decide as a cartel कि हम लोग इससे ज्यादा हम लोग ये नहीं करेंगे. It is also seen in many underworld films where all the different areas of the particular city, so this underworld don controls it and the other underworld don controls it, and they come to an understanding that too many of our men are dying in the warfare and then मिल बांट के हम लोग खाएंगे. So during colonial times this was also called as spheres of influence. तो ब्रिटिश लोग ये पार्ट ऑफ एशिया कंट्रोल करेंगे, फ्रेंच लोग ये पार्ट ऑफ एशिया कंट्रोल करेंगे, पोर्चुगीज लोग ये पार्ट कंट्रोल करेंगे, और हम लोग हमारे स्फीयर्स ऑफ इन्फ्लुएंस में हम लोग रहेंगे. अदरवाइज रेगुलरली वॉरफेयर करते रहेंगे तो फिर कॉलोनियल जो लूट हम लोग को करना है तो हम लोग को वो करने में हमारा सबका प्रॉफिट्स कम हो जाएगा. सो अल्टीमेटली इट इज वन एंड द सेम थिंग. देन एडवर्टाइजिंग बैटल्स. ओके, one upmanship as far as advertising revenues are concerned, advertising costs are concerned, product introductions. Okay. This rivalry tends to increase in intensity when companies either feel competitive pressure or see an opportunity to improve their position. Right. So in the long run, of course, one of them might blink and the other might get the share of the market. So ultimately, there is something called as prisoner's dilemma. You know, so if say player A and player B, if player A feels that if I stop advertising and player B continues advertising, then player B will get a lion's share of the market and I will lose out. So B also thinks the same way about A. So ultimately, ideal scenario would have been that both A and B do limited advertising and they have an understanding with each other that we will share the profits, higher profits equally. But ultimately, A thinks that B will basically get a lion's share and B thinks that A will get a higher lion's share by advertising. So ultimately, both of them start doing advertising. And therefore, the collective profits that they make would be lesser than had they had an understanding between themselves. Okay. So understanding hona matlab collusion hona. So collusion, understanding between themselves is also a mature industry के अंदर you find that they don't indulge in price wars and they try to improve upon other aspects like the cost structure, employee costs, and they run a slightly more tighter ship and so on. So in most industries where there is perfect competition, see, perfect competition is a scenario where there exist as many number of buyers and as many number of sellers so that the individual action of any single buyer or any single seller is not able to influence the equilibrium price. That is how we define perfect competition. But perfect competition is a utopian scenario. It almost never exists. What exists, however, in most industries is oligopolistic competition or oligopoly, where there are going to be a few number of buyers, few number of sellers. That is, Colgate is there, toothpaste mein Colgate is there, Babool is there, Procter and Gamble is there. So there are 5 or 6 major players, and the entire market share will be divided amongst them. There are of course monopolies also. Say for example, railways. Indian Railways is a monopoly. You don't have any private railways operating. However, it does have substitutes in terms of low cost airlines and so on and so forth, or even long distance travel by road is also a competition for Indian Railways. So in most industries, uh, one company's competitive motives will have a noticeable impact on the competition, who will then retaliate to counter these efforts. And companies are therefore mutually dependent and the action and reaction may harm all companies and the industry, which we have discussed some time back. Some types of competition, for example, price competition, are very unstable and negatively impact industry profitability. Advertising battles may positively influence the industry as they increase the demand, but then if it gets very bitter, then the advantage of increased demand might be lost because of the splintering of the market shares. Okay. So to just summarize whatever we have discussed about competitive rivalry. Between current members of the industry, these could be various factors that determine the competitive rivalry. Right. So ultimately, using these five forces, what does Michael Porter have to say about what should be the generic strategies or generic competitive strategies that firms should adopt? So essentially, Porter talks about three things. Okay, cost leadership strategy, then he talks about differentiation strategy, and he talks about focus strategy. So essentially, तीन strategies की वो बात करते हैं. पहला strategy है cost leadership strategy. What does cost leadership strategy basically say? That you try to have your cost structure in such a manner that it renders all the other players out of the market because of your lower costs. So those companies which pursue a cost leadership strategy, their entire focus is on producing and marketing a good quality product at a lower cost than your competitor. Good quality product at a lower cost than your competitor. So you try to keep your costs of production and distribution as low as possible. In India, for example, Indigo, in the private airlines business, Indigo use this particular strategy to good effect. So much so that even their top executives used to never travel in a very high-end car or stay in a very high-end hotel. They used to always stay at budget hotels to percolate or to communicate this message amongst the rank and file of the company that we will try to keep costs as low as possible. In terms of operations also, what Indigo did was that they used to operate only on those routes which were very heavily traveled routes, say Pune Bangalore or Pune Chennai or Bombay Calcutta, etc. So certain routes के ऊपर वो लोग ज़्यादा flights operate करते थे, and they used to never go to those places where the aircraft would not be full also on a particular flight. So they used to their operations were all geared towards producing an absolutely lean and mean ship, right? So cost leadership strategy. Worldwide, you will find Walmart is excessively focused on cost leadership strategy. So much so that Walmart के जो स्टोर्स के जो मीटिंग्स भी होते हैं, वो लोग कोई उसके लिए कोई मीटिंग रूम नहीं होता है, वो लोग खड़े खड़े ही एक एम्प्टी रूम के अंदर मीटिंग्स करते हैं, राइट? सो दी हाई वॉल्यूम्स एंड लो मार्जिन मार्केट के अंदर ऑपरेट करना पसंद करते हैं. सो वॉल्यूम से वो लोग अपना धंधा बढ़ाने का सोचते हैं. So cost leadership. So the company works extremely hard to achieve lowest cost of production and distribution, so that it can it can price its products lower than its competitors and win large market share. So worldwide, you have Walmart is a prime example of what cost leadership strategy is. The other strategy that Michael Porter discusses is called as differentiation strategy. So differentiation strategy. So if your product is not the lowest cost product in the market, then you will have to customer की वो क्यों खरीदे. कस्टमर अगर देखता है सबसे सस्ता, तो he gets attracted immediately. तो suppose बिग बाजार सबसे सस्ता बेच रहा है, तो he gets attracted towards बिग बाजार. But if I am walking into another store which is not promising sabse sasta, then that store will have to will have to assure me ki why should I then buy. So differentiation strategy is to create a product or a service that is perceived as being unique throughout the industry. So differentiate. आपके अंदर क्या है जो कॉम्पिटिटर के पास नहीं है, जिसके वजह से आप हायर प्राइस चार्ज कर रहे हैं कॉम्पिटिटर से। लोएस्ट प्राइस प्लेयर से ज्यादा प्राइस अगर आप चार्ज कर रहे हैं, लोएस्ट प्राइस प्लेयर अगर सपोज 10 रुपीज चार्ज कर रहा है उस प्रोडक्ट के लिए, आप अगर 13 रुपीज चार्ज कर रहे हैं, तो आपको बताना पड़ेगा कि ये 3 रुपीज का प्रीमियम कस्टमर क्यों दें। सो व्हाट इज इट दैट यू हैव? So essentially in differentiation strategy, a company concentrates on creating a highly differentiated product line and a marketing program so that it can come across as a uh, leader in that industry, class leader in that industry. So typically in terms of computers, PCs, IBM follows this strategy. Okay, and most customers would prefer to own that particular brand if its price is not too high. That is basically the way you position it. And the third important strategy that Porter talks about is focus strategy. So focus strategy is geared towards focusing its efforts on serving a few market segments or a particular market segments very well rather than going after the whole market. So you try to become everything to a few people rather than something to everybody. सारे लोगों के लिए कुछ 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 करना वर्सेस एक सेगमेंट के लिए सारा कुछ करना. So focus strategy. So addressing a focused segment of the market, product or firm, etc. So essentially, for example, a particular glass making company, let's say there is something called as a AFG Industries, which produces a particular type of tempered and colored glass, which is used for microwave ovens, shower doors, etc. And it addresses that particular segment almost as a very, very focused or a niche kind of player. So if you see the graph that or the table that has been shown on the slide, source of competitive advantage is on one side and markets where business competes is on the other side. So broad strategies ये दो है, cost leadership strategy and differentiation strategy, and narrow strategies are always focus strategies, right? So focus के साथ अगर आप cost भी लगाते हैं तो cost focus हो जाता है, and narrow के अंदर differentiation के साथ अगर आप focus भी लगाते हैं तो फिर differentiation focus strategy. So essentially कुछ examples let us take. Broad market strategies के अंदर cost leadership strategy, जैसे बिग बाजार सेज इससे सस्ता और अच्छा कहीं नहीं, या पर्टिकुलर वेडनेसडे सबसे सस्ता दिन या 3 सस्ते दिन of shopping, etc. So Big Bazaar follows what is known in the retailing sector as EDLP, everyday low pricing. So they even challenge the customer that इससे सस्ता अगर कोई और भी कहीं आपको ये प्रोडक्ट मिले तो आपको हम लोग पैसे वापस करेंगे. Okay, which is what the person vendor on the street often tells you कि इससे सस्ता अगर आपको कहीं पे मिल जाए तो मैं आपको basically free में दे दूंगा. So that is the kind of claim that Big Bazaar tries to make. Okay, सबसे सस्ता. Another is the differentiation strategy. So you see that this Bandage designer clothing from Ahmedabad, it caters to an urban market. Okay, so it is typically a print that is found in the rural areas, but it is marketed as the product line is marketed as something that is catering to the urban market who wants to appear as urban chic, okay, or ethnic wear, which is targeted towards the urban market. It's a differentiation strategy. In terms of narrow target strategies, you have focused differentiation strategy. A very good example would be the German Mittelstand companies, what is known as the mid-size companies. In fact, there are 200, 300 top world-class companies in Germany which are mid-size companies, which may not necessarily be listed on the stock market, but they offer a very focused differentiation strategy backed by a very strong effort. Okay, so they enjoy premium amongst various countries in spite of their high costs. So it is a very good example of focused differentiation. And German engineering का उनका promise होता है, and at the same time they are able to command a very good market worldwide. In fact, many Korean companies have visited these German Mittelstand companies, and the success of the Koreans in the export market can be attributed to their mimicking or replicating the good points of the German Mittelstand companies. Also, another example would be high-end audio equipment. Okay, this also is a very good example of focused differentiation strategy. And finally, amongst narrow strategies, you have a cost-focused strategy. Say, for example, Chinese and Polish shipbuilding companies, they offer lower production costs, and they produce standard vessel types, shipping vessel types, and so that this can be a good example of a cost-focused strategy. Okay, so so ultimately, uh, Porter's five forces model के अलावा you also have other competitive strategies or competitive advantage tools. One is of course called as a perceptual mapping. Okay, so where on the y axis and the x axis you put two parameters and then you plot various existing competitors and then you try to find a gap, etc. Then you have other segmentation strategies, Porter's five forces model. So all these strategies enable a company to understand their competitors, and using competitors' knowledge, you try to understand where you can basically fill the void, and you can position your product or your service in the minds of the consumer. Okay, so that's it for today's discussion on Porter's five forces model. Okay, thank you.